Need to improve your club on Ultimate Team? Check out IGGM for safe and reliable coins with the link in the description. Get an extra 5% discount with code NA. What's good, y'all? With this video, I'm going to show you guys the 4-4-2. This formation, alongside the 4-2-3-1 and the 4-3-2-1, is most definitely one of the best formations in the game, especially if you struggle to use the formations like the 4-3-2-1 or the 4-2-3-1 or things like that. It's basically foolproof if you're looking for AI movement in terms of the attack. I've never had issues with players not being open or being hard to find in terms of passing, and it's also defensively a very good formation. This is due to the fact that the overall 4-4-2 structure is probably the most undefeatable sort of structure when it comes to defending, and also the fact that with no center defensive mids, having center mids instead, it allows your team to press up the pitch a lot more harder, so you're able to press for the ball up the pitch a lot harder rather than just having to sit back and control, or get controlled, in terms of possession. So you're going to be fighting for possession a lot, even with your AI. You might not even notice it yourself, but you will basically notice that the team is pressing for you in the attack. And without much more being said, we're going to go straight into the instructions and tactics. As you can see, this is my team that I used for it right here. Custom tactics. We're going to have it set to our attacking because this is, in my opinion, an attacking formation. It is a pretty neutral formation. I would recommend that you use this formation as like your, game starting formation, but for what it's worth, I do have it set to my attacking, primarily because obviously I can't set it to my default. But defensive style balanced with width 38 and depth 68. The reason why we do this is because of the recent nerfs when it came to cutbacks. We want to force the other player to be in that cutback position, ironically. This is because now that since cutbacks are not as effective, the wide positions of the pitch are now going to be less valuable. And with cutbacks being nerfed and not being as good as they previously were, it's not like they're going to be able to just spam crosses. That's not going to work either. That's not a viable trick either. So forcing them to be as wide as possible and not enter the box or not enter the center of the pitch and have control over there, we want to do that. I'd even encourage you to experiment with dropping it down a little bit more if you really want to try to, if you're feeling curious. But for right now, 38 is going to be perfect for the recent nerfs. And then you're going to have depth right here, which is 68, primarily because, like I said, this formation is an upwards pressing formation. Think of something like, how Liverpool play in real life, where they press very high up the pitch, win the ball back, and then immediately they're going straight into basically like an accelerated counterattack. We're going to maximize this by having 68 depth, which is almost 71 depth, but we're obviously not going to use 71 depth. So 68 depth is going to be perfect for that higher up the line press. We're going to use build-up play balance with direct passing, primarily because, like I say in every single other video, I've had no use, found no point changing these two right here because these are what generate the most runs and simultaneously the most players coming short for the ball and receiving the ball to their feet, so we're able to dribble around the ball. We don't want to use things like forward runs or anything like that, primarily because forward runs minimizes the amount of players that come short for the ball instead for, throwing players up the pitch and making runs specifically instead. We don't want to do that because obviously we want your players to come short for the ball, turn around, dribble, and that way you're able to maximize possession and maximize the amount of space that you dribble. And width, we're gonna do 55. I experimented with this number a lot and I found 55 to basically be perfect, primarily because we can't go too narrow because we want the strikers to still have space to move around a bit. We don't want the wingers to get crowded with the strikers. We want there to still be a decent gap in between them. That way there's not too many defenders close to them. And I found it to be just wide enough to the point where they're not getting too wide and basically playing like wide midfielders because we don't want them to be that wide. We want them to still tuck in and be relevant in the attack, in the box. So 55 gets them involved in the box while not getting them too close to strikers to basically invade in their space to, for the striker to do their own job, We're gonna have 5 players in the box, primarily because this formation, normally I like having 6, that way a fullback can join the attack. However, for that defensive structure, we're not going to have any fullbacks join the attack. This is going to be primarily the 4 attackers, which is the 2 strikers and 2 wingers, and then occasionally a box-to-box midfielder that's going to join in the attack, or the number 8 midfielder. We're going to have 2 corners and 2 free kicks. And before we continue on going on to the instructions, if you guys are looking for a Discord server that has things for FIFA related to like tactics, discussions, squad building, if you want to talk about your squad, if you need any player recommendations, anything like that, then I highly recommend you join our Discord right here in the description. Additionally, for the people that are new here, take a look at the subscriber rate right here. I'm an up-and-coming FIFA YouTuber who plans to make further content that will obviously help you get better at the game. And down the line, I plan to release detailed attacking and defending guides and basically anything that will allow you to improve at the game. So if this is something that you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe down below. And going straight into instructions, you're going to see we have our 2 strikers right here. Your number 9 striker right here, this is going to be that player that's just going to constantly be like a box, like a poacher type player, He's gonna be on stay central, getting behind, or sorry, she's gonna be on stay central, getting behind for context sake. This player, like I said, gonna be the classic number 9. Always gonna be an option for the through balls, especially if they have high attacking work rate. So just have a player right here that's really fast. A player like Eusebio is gonna be perfect for this. But I obviously have Mia Hamm, so I'm gonna use her. So yeah, stay central, getting behind, and then your other striker right here. This is gonna be like a mixed striker. You're gonna see he has all default, so you're not gonna change anything on this guy. He's gonna be all default. This is basically, it could be like, really it's what you make of him. He can be like your number 10, or he can be like a second striker. Think of someone like Griezmann or Messi, players like that you can trust to be anywhere on the pitch in the attack in the final third. Having default allows him to roam around the pitch in the final third and basically search for space that's completely open for him to do his thing. So have a player here that you can trust to be on the ball, especially a player that can create something out of nothing. And then obviously to the left, you're gonna want that that player with a ton of pace, someone that can just shoot reliably and not have any issues. Like I said, Eusebio is gonna be perfect for that, getting behind position. And play like maybe Team of the Year Messi if you're lucky to get one of those cards or something like that. You're gonna want to play right there. And then your two wingers, they're gonna be both the same. One's gonna be, or what am I talking about? One for, sorry. Both of them are gonna be on basic defensive support, cut inside, getting behind. I have experimented with putting both on get into the box for cross. However, I recommend you try on both. I haven't noticed a difference really. I feel like it's not effective in actually getting them into the box because they're wingers to begin with. And like I said, we don't want to invade on the space for the strikers to do their own job. So I have them on default. But other than that, you can have them both on cut inside, getting behind, primarily because that's the two, like that right there, that combination forces them to tuck in between the center back and the fullback, for those perfect through balls. And obviously you want that in order for the players to make runs that are actually going to threaten the other team's defense. And then your two center mids, they're both going to be on completely default when it comes to everything else except for cover center. They're both going to be on cover center. However, you're going to have one midfielder that's on balance attack and one midfielder that's on stay back while attacking. So I originally had Bruno Fernandes on balance attack, and I honestly preferred that. However, I needed Zico right here just to test out his development. So me personally, I didn't bother doing that. However, I would highly recommend that the player that you have with balance attack is going to be behind the player that has balance with mixed attack. Because like I said, he's going to have more space to make runs in behind, while, with Mia Hamm in front of Zico, he's not going to be making that many runs because Mia Hamm is going to be occupying the space in front of him inside the box. Your two fullbacks are going to be on stay back while attacking overlap, as you can see right here. Like expected, they're not going to join the attack. They're just going to be primarily focused on defending and holding their ground defensively. Two center backs right here are going to be on stay back while attacking, of course. And your goalkeeper comes to cross his sweeper keeper. This formation is going to be a really good formation now that, the patch happened and the patch went through and everything. Primarily because due to the nerfs when it came to cutbacks, now this formation defensively is just going to be such a huge pain in the ass for the other players. Specifically because the goal with this formation is to force the other team's attack to constantly have to look at wide options. The reason why they're being forced, obviously, is because those wide players, when the other player switches the ball from, touchline to touchline, they're going to notice that, oh shoot, that other winger is wide open. And then boom, he's going to send it to that wide winger and he's going to be forced into a cutback position, or he might be going for the cutback position and he's going to notice like, oh shoot, I can't really do a cutback. One, because the AI and your center backs now, they're actually going to react for the cutbacks. You're not going to have that issue where they can just get a easy pass in and the striker gets a tap in. Like, that's not going to happen anymore. So by forcing the player into that position, you're basically forcing the other player to do things that aren't going to be effective for him. So since the patch just released and it just went through, it just got installed to everyone's game, people aren't going to have removed the, that muscle memory from their, from their gameplay. And until then, you're obviously going to want to use a formation that maximizes the amount of cutbacks that other player can get. So he's forced into doing cutbacks and then realizing they're not as good. And before he realizes they're not as good, you're probably already winning the game. But yeah, other than that, this is probably, in my opinion, well, for a fact, this is definitely top 5 formation in the game. Whether it's behind the 4-2-3-1, 4-3-2-1, I'm not really sure, honestly, because I feel like these formations are just the best formations in the game. And, the 4-3-2-1 might not work for someone, but it will work for someone else. So I highly recommend, if you're looking for a formation to use in the attack, you give this formation a try, especially if you don't like the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-3-2-1 or anything like that. So if those formations don't work out for you, I'm sure this one will. But yeah, other than that, that's all for this video. If you found that this formation was helping you in foot champs or division rivals, anything like that, feel free to like, subscribe. And if you have any questions about the formation or anything else, really, any other questions, go ahead and leave a comment and I'll be sure to reply as soon as possible. But other than that, that's all.